Coming up this morning on the Dattitude podcast, remember how just a week or two ago, everything had changed and it was almost a sure thing, according to the experts, that the Saints were going to take a quarterback with their first-round pick because Derek Carr's shoulder had a boo-boo. At least one prominent expert is backing off just a little. Does that change the odds? If not yet, will it? Has it changed the minds of anyone else? Let's ask the expert of experts locally when it comes to the NFL draft. Mike Detillier of WWL Radio is here, a good friend of the show. And with the slight fall of quarterback, what position or positions are moving up? Oh, and did you know man and the machine are on fire? Well, sort of. And for today's last word, we found out even Mother Nature and the karma gods can play jokes on the almighty New York Yankees. As they used to say on Popeye and Pals, that's right, folks. Roll them.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.
Where are you at, Dattitude family? It's just 3 more days to the start of the NFL draft, and still, no one knows a GD thing. You may, as Jim Morris says, you think you know, but you really don't know, and you never will. Well, I mean, that part of it's not true. We will know on Thursday, one way or the other. We might not know why. I know one thing we definitely know. We know that this is Dattitude, episode number 364, presented by Evangeline Securities for a Monday, April the 21st, 2025. We know that I'm Jim Derry, 34 plus years on the New Orleans sports media scene, and I thank you for being a part of that ever-growing Dattitude family. We know that the Dattitude family lives on YouTube, and we ask you to subscribe there, please. And we ask you to give us a thumbs up to help our, our algorithm. I don't even know what the hell that really means, but it helps the algorithm. Lord, you do not want a bad algorithm. Trust me. It's one of the worst things you can have is a bad algorithm. I mean, they can all have all kinds of stuff, but don't have a bad algorithm. You get in touch with me on X at Jim Derry Jr. or via email at jderry@theadvocate.com. What is on the show today? Well, you can see it on the screen, but if you can't see it on the screen, and you know, sometimes I go back and I don't listen to my shows very often, but every now and then something's bugging me. Like, did I forget this, or did I forget that, or how did I say this? And every now and then I'll go back, and so I listened to the first half of Friday's show on a podcast while I was driving. I forget where I was driving, but I think to a game this weekend. But I realized that I don't talk enough to the people who listen to after the fact and who are just listening to the show. And there are a lot of you out there. I got some emails this weekend. Let's see. Gerard Simino, who said some nice things, praying for my wife, who's back at work today. So things are going well. Saints fan, Shaw alum of class of 74. Got to throw that out there. Thanks to Gerard Simino for writing. He believes the Saints will not draft a quarterback in the first round. He says his biggest needs for the Saints are in this order. Offensive line, one that could play guard or tackle would be a plus. Will Campbell, maybe. I think Membu can probably play both. Cornerback is a second choice. I think the ones we have are okay, but we need better. Defensive tackle must improve the run defense. Number 4 for him as a quarterback. He hopes takes one in the third round. Dart's not going to be available in the third round. I doubt if Shuck would be either. He says keep an eye out for Dylan Gabriel from Oregon. I don't know if I agree with him there. And then wide receiver, Lord knows we do need a wide receiver. Who else? I got some other comments, and I can't find them now. Here's one from Bobby Stone. He is in agreement with me about the fake surgery. I don't think anyone. I mean, does anyone really at this point believe that Carr's going to have surgery? No. No one believes. No one really believes that. Why was it even? Gabe says maybe. I would bet big money that Derek Carr doesn't have surgery on his shoulder. At least not. Now, he may get hurt later and then, he has surgery on his shoulder. And like, Derek, you owe us money. No, I mean this particular injury. No. We're going to be talking about all that. QB or not QB? That is the question. Mike Detillier, of course, it's going to be the first thing we ask him. We've been talking about it for over a week now. I'm getting tired of it. I can't wait for the draft. Of course, Derek Carr is going to be the topic of a lot of shows from now until September, whatever. But at least we could stop asking the draft question, QB or not QB. We will find out the answer on Thursday. On Wednesday's show, Eric Asher will be here. He has a lot of thoughts. I'm going in on his show this afternoon. And then on Thursday, it's mock draft morning. We're going to be on all day for the most part. Gabe and Zach and I will be doing mock draft. Just the first round. We'll be talking about that. And then, of course, the live draft show, as we talked about here on all these same DAT channels. Thursday night, you'll want to watch. Because when the Saints do something stupid, I'll probably have a stupid look on my face. What does Mike Detillier think? He's coming on in just a little bit. Should be on about 11:20. That's with my show at Matt Skills. 12 to 13 minutes from now, baby. Other possibilities. The Saints don't draft the quarterback. Where are they going to go? Adam Schefter changing his tune. Going to get into that in just a minute. Man versus machine. We told you about man and machine. They both won 2 in a row. Don't call it a comeback. It is a hot streak. Gabe is testing that theory out today. I'm just going to, no spoiler alerts. Just telling you, he's going on a limb. I don't know if that limb's strong enough to hold him, but hey, when man's on fire, we don't throw water on him and we don't throw shade. We let him say whatever he wants to say. And in this world, the way that we've been picking 2 in a row is on fire. That's coming up. And the last word, as I told you, is on the New York Yankees. Did you see what happened yesterday? If you didn't, it's I'm not going to show it to you. You don't need to see it. It's hilarious. Before we get started anymore, it's going to be, it's a weird day for us Catholics, a somber day. Of course, the news of Pope Francis passing away at 88 years old. Look, I gotta be honest. I mean, all the stuff we heard the last couple months. If you're Catholic, you follow this stuff. If you're not, some of you, even if you're not Catholic, but beyond Pope Francis passing away, do you guys know? Apparently, there's all kinds of like symbolism stuff that goes in with the Pope dying, and there could be like craziness going on in the world, but. Someone told me that, and I'm like, isn't there already craziness going on in the world? Aren't we like does anyone remember crazier times in our lifetimes? I mean, if you're like 75 or 80 and you really remember the Vietnam days, then maybe I was just being born, so I don't remember that. So maybe things were crazier in the late 60s. I don't know. Times crazier than they are today. Anyway, that's a whole different story. We're not going to get into any of that. I just did want to throw that out there, and obviously being Catholic and yesterday being Easter and just symbolism of things. Sometimes things are. I know a lot of people don't believe in weird coincidences and signs from the heavens or whatever. I know a lot of people don't believe in life after death and all that stuff. And I don't know how you can, but whatever. Not going to get deep here this morning, I promise you. But it's when things like certain things happen at certain times. Just makes you wonder. Just a little bit. It's got to make you wonder a little bit. Anyway. As Forrest Gump would say, that's all I'll have to say about that. Before we get to the rest of the show and our comments, we got a lot of comments. I'm sorry I didn't take away fully Mono E Monday, by the way. Mike Detillier is only going to be on for 20 or 30 minutes. That is usually usual hour. At least that's the plan right now. So we will have plenty of time for Mono E Monday, I promise, after Mike goes off the show. And we probably will show a few comments while Mike's on. And I'm going to get it to the ones that we have right now in just a minute. But I have to tell you about our friends at Evangeline Securities. Of course, They are a company that can help you decide if it's the right time to sell your family-run or privately held business. And just as importantly, they can help you figure out what that business is worth. If that's someone you know, or even if it's you, it's time to reach out to Evangeline's founding and managing partners, Nick Braden and Ron Hemel. They will start by scheduling a complimentary valuation from their offices either on Poydras Street or in Lafayette. And from there, you will be well-informed, begin to make the decision on if you want to proceed. The first pick in Evangeline's draft is the shop owner in Metairie. Oh, no. Wait a minute. Maybe it's the Uptown restaurant owner. Oh, they don't want to tell you yet. Rumors are swirling. It's a lot of debate. I know it's not a quarterback at Evangeline. What happens after that? Well, we'll fill you in more later in the show. In the meantime, you can check them out at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, let's get to some comments because I want to get to Schefter. Good morning, Mark Gapsky. 3 days to the draft, absolutely. Charles Mangus, good morning. The Who Dat family, A-Town. Good morning to me and Gabe. It is draft week. Thank Christ. Seriously. Thank goodness. Bucker, Who Dat? Welcome. Rocky, good morning. Apathy. Never thought the Saints were drafting at 9. I think it's DeMario's replacement, Jihad Campbell, at 9. Oh, no. Oh, God, no. Although we did have Jihad Campbell as our cover picture, what, a couple weeks ago? Can't go linebacker at number 9. If you trade down, you want to get Jihad Campbell, fine. I got a feeling Thursday night is going to be. Wouldn't it be just like the Saints for it to be someone that we haven't even talked about even like a little bit? Wouldn't it be like that for the Saints? I don't know. Who would that be? Someone we haven't even talked about even a little bit. Who would it be? Scott J, good morning. Looking forward to draft week. I'm looking forward to draft week being over, Scott J, but I am looking forward to who they pick for sure. Terrence is here. You're here early. Good luck to my wife. Thank you. Again, she's out at work today. She's doing all right. We get some news later this week. We'll see what happens. Cheers to a great draft. I'm telling you. And we will take comments during that draft. You will want to be here. You will want to be here. Aaron Brown, Who Dat? Hey, Town, is Jim going to have a nuclear meltdown? That is going to be the lead into the draft show. Will Jim Derry have a nuclear meltdown on Dattitude and the Saints Insiders Draft Show, live on Dattitude and NOLA.com. Maybe. David Bordelon, hope we had a wonderful Easter weekend, and we sure did. Sanders, or any quarterback at number 9? Oh, God, no, please no. Best pick available. I don't think you do best pick available. I'm just telling you. Maybe unless best pick available fits your top 3 needs, then sure. Quarterback ain't one of them. See how you can have 2 different comments back to back? Chad Gage, good morning, all. No quarterback in the first round. Eric Dodd wants Tyler Warren. David Nola, good morning. He says trade down and draft Walter Nolan. I'm all about trading down. Louis Jacobson says tight end, probably not. Ron Hendrickson says if history tells us anything about the draft with Loomis as GM, other than a few years ago, was obvious what the Saints needed. Who knows who will the Saints draft at number 9? More misses than hits. You know, I invite everyone to go check out. I ain't taking up a Mickey Loomis. I don't hear Mickey lover, Carr lover, blah, blah, blah. And y'all hate when I tell it the way that it is. I'm not taking up for anyone. I'm just saying there's a story on NOLA.com/Saints right now that Jeff Duncan wrote in a column. And he went back in time and did some checks on y'all saying how bad Mickey sucks in the draft. I'm just saying I don't think Mickey sucks as bad as y'all think he sucks. That's all I'm going to say. It's definitely not more misses than hits. Okay? Yeah, of course you can bring out the big misses. Of course there are big misses. But, I mean, you could go to one draft in particular in the first round. Just a few years ago, he drafted Chris Olave and Trevor Penning in the same first round. You got the Chris Olave part, right? You got the Trevor Penning pick We think it's wrong. I've been bashing it. I think it was wrong, but who knows? They go draft a lineman this year and move Penning to guard. Who knows? Maybe Trevor Penning is a stalwart guard in this league. For who knows? I'm probably reaching now, but I'm just saying, if you go back and look in time and read Jeff Duncan's column and read it with an open mind, don't read it with your I hate Mickey Loomis, I hate Derek Carr, there's nothing anybody can tell me that. This is the problem. We don't ever think of anything with an open mind. And then I automatically, you're a Loomis lover and a Carr lover. No, I'm just not a Loomis hater and a Carr hater. There's a big difference. Kyle Sherman, good morning. Thank you for checking in. Let's see. Chad Gage. Mickey's had some good drafts. Question the contracts, though. You know, I'll tell you, that's my number one problem right there. My number one problem is kicking the can. And now they're in a spot where, you know, I had to agree with kicking the car can this year. You didn't have any choices. You had to kick the car can down the road this year. Just saying. Apathy says Belichick traded down a lot and missed a lot. It's always easy. If you like somebody, if you like a quarterback or you like a general manager, or you like a coach or you like whatever, if you like someone or something, or you like a reporter, okay, then you have trouble seeing what that person did wrong, okay? It's like an Adam Schefter. Adam Schefter is right way more than he's wrong. Okay, we're going to get to Adam Schefter in just a minute. But y'all don't remember when Adam Schefter is wrong. A lot of people don't remember when Diana Rossini is wrong. And you take that word, it's got Ian Rappaport. And I'm not making fun of him because I listen to him too. I think he's fun to listen to. I think he's informative. I think a lot of times I guess, you know, he's a colleague, even though we work for different services. Nick Underhill. People take Nick Underhill's word as gospel and God. It's not. No one's is. Our own people. No one is. The word is gospel. We have gone through this whole Derek Carr saga, and we've taken all these different things are gospel. Then you start piecing things together, and you say, well, what do these things have in common? Well, I know one thing they have in common. Nobody's heard a word from Derek Carr. We can hate on Mickey. We can hate on. I'm not taking up for any of them. Just saying. Look at everything, even if you have a bias, and I know you're human. It's if you hate Derek Carr or you hate whatever, or you like someone else or whatever, or you don't want the Saints to pick this, you look through whatever glasses you want to look through. I'm saying trying to look at it from both sides. Who dat daddy? Welcome. Glad you're here. Harley Warner. They're going to reach and take Shamar Stewart from Texas A&M at 9. That would be a reach, but I will say this. I'm not for that. I think that would be a reach, but that wouldn't be a terrible pick either. Jay Tucker or Rafferty. First round picks have been bad. They do have a better history with later picks. Yeah, I mean, some of them have been. Some of them haven't. Mal says it's insane how everyone wants to be in an echo chamber or can't stand a different point of view. That's the point, Mal. 100%. That's all I try to tell people. And whenever I say that, it's like I'm a lover of something that they hate. Automatically a lover of something they hate. Somebody loves to jump in. Are you still defending Derek Carr? I would never really defend Derek Carr. I'm just trying to tell you what I think common sense says. Just say. Eric Dodd, please don't draft a project. Draft best available blue chip player, regardless of position. Eric, I just don't think you can draft a player regardless of position. I think this team is not good enough to do that this year. That's my opinion. All right. Mike is going to be here in a minute, but real quickly, I want to get in, and I may come back to this after Mike leaves us. So when he comes in the green room, I'm not going to make him wait. But Adam Schefter, and to show you how it goes to exactly what we're talking about right now. I'm sorry if I didn't get to your comment. I will try to. There's quite a few that I haven't gotten into you. I'm not ignoring you, I promise. Adam Schefter, the great Adam Schefter, goes to show that is there really any more respected expert in the field of NFL in NFL draft than Adam Schefter, or at least NFL. No, there isn't. I don't think there is. Okay. Even I mean, if he says something, I'm like, oh, well, Adam Schefter said it. That being said, though, here's what Adam Schefter said on April 9th. Quoting, to me, I think there are three options on Shedeur Sanders. 9 at New Orleans, Pittsburgh at 21. Those are two scenarios in my mind that are most plausible right now. So he says there are three options, then it only gives you two. Because before that, and I didn't quote this part out, but he basically said the Giants were pretty much out on Shedeur Sanders. It may or may not be. This was 2 weeks ago. So basically, he was saying that the options for Shedeur Sanders, this was April 9th. So that is 2 weeks ago, or almost 2 weeks ago. It was the Saints at 9 or Pittsburgh at 21. What did he say this morning? And I'm quoting here from ESPN. This is literally, I'm letting you know. I'm not making it a secret. This is what Adam Schefter said. This is in a ESPN release this morning. There is a belief around the league that Saints are more interested in not using a high pick on an offensive or defensive lineman because there are questions about two starters, tackle Trevor Penning and guard Nick Saldiveri. Well, duh, how long we've been saying that here? And just about every other show that I've been on or expert that I've talked to or friends of this show. Everyone said that. He goes on to say the belief is they want to draft a quarterback, just maybe not at number 9 and maybe not Sanders. As another personnel executive said, quote, I don't think New Orleans is taking Shedeur. I think they're hot and heavy on Jackson Dart. Speaking of Dart, he says, quote, there is skepticism about whether the Saints would take the Ole Miss passer at number 9. It feels to many around the league they have an equally strong need on defense and have had contention of officials, including more assistant general manager Jeff Ireland and defensive coordinator Brandon Staley in Athens, Georgia on Thursday to visit with defenders Jalen Walker and Michael Williams, both of whom are projected to be first-round picks. Dart would figure to be squarely in play with the Saints' next pick, whether that is in the second round at number 40. Will he still be there? I don't know. A trade up. And then there's this. He says, New Orleans already has made exploratory calls about trading up in round 2 per league sources, and it's worth noting it has 2 third and 2 fourth-round picks. So already, Adam Schefter is kind of changing his tune a little bit, which is kind of my point on all this. No one knows anything. I don't know anything. We can tell you what we think is best for the Saints and our opinions on what is best, what makes the most sense. But all this is just hyperbole. No one throws shade this time of year better than the New Orleans Saints and Mickey Loomis. That's my opinion. You know who else knows the answer? Knows that this is true? Is our favorite expert, Mike Detillier. He is here this morning. Mike, we talk about all these things. What you have an opinion on what the Saints probably should do. I have an opinion about what the Saints really should do, but none of us really know what the Saints are going to do. And I would even argue that I don't even know if the Saints know what they're going to do at this point, Thursday night.
I agree, 2,000%. The other thing that comes into play here, this is 40 years for me. So I've seen a lot of crazy stuff, but how much influence coaches have in this sort of scenario of events, and general managing coaches don't like to talk about it, and it doesn't apply to the Saints ownership. Man, look, I've had guys tell me they had boards set. This is who we're going to pick. The owner walks in and says, we picking so-and-so. You know, and I've said this on Sports Talk a lot, and some of the people, well, I'd stand up to the owner and say, no, I'm doing, and I'd tell them, yeah, you might, and you'll be unemployed. No,
that's right.
He's a billionaire or she's a billionaire. That doesn't apply to the Saints, but it does apply to some teams where coaches and owners now, all of a sudden, they have tremendous say in who you're going to pick. And the Saints had one like that. Come on, you can't tell me Sean Payton
was sure
being told
he was running that room.
Pick. Come on, one thing
he was running that room.
Sean Payton told me this a number of times. He said, I really know the top 100 pretty well. Now, he said after that, we really got to rely on the scouts and Jeff Ireland and everybody else to kind of get us up to snuff with it. But I think all coaches have that Parcells mindset. If you want me to cook the dinner, at least let me shop for a few of the groceries out there. So we're getting to that time of year. No one knows exactly what they're going to do unless you're the Titans.
Yeah.
I think that's it. And I do think with Cleveland, the edict has went down from above. And I'm talking about the owner, Jimmy Haslam. He has said, I want Travis Hunter. You guys pick him. Okay? When they went to the pro day and everything was there, man, you heard Cleveland. They were all over the board.
Yep.
All of a sudden.
Abdul Carter. I thought they were taking Abdul Carter.
Yeah. All of a sudden, the owner has a few comments. Yeah, there's a unique player in this draft class who can play on offense and defense. Guess what? Have you heard anything from the Browns other than Travis Hunter? That is ownership saying, hey, guys, y'all can spend all these hundreds of thousands of dollars and in most cases, it's well over $1 million on scouting, but I want Travis Hunter. Pick him. Okay. And I don't want to hear no lip. And they are, yes, sir, Mr. Haslam. That's exactly who we're going to pick. That's what we thought from day one. We were just putting out different rumors. We've seen it with the Cowboys, with Jerry Jones.
That's right.
Okay. No shock there. Arthur Blank, great example. How many owners get on the private plane and they go to Washington to work out Michael Penix like 10 days before the draft and they come back? Well, that told me Terry Fontenot and the guys there, they had other guys in mind. I think they really would have loved to get a defensive player. But I think Mr. Blank said, you know what? Yeah, we signed Kirk Cousins, but he's only going to be here 2 years. And then you got to cut that in half now. But I want my quarterback in the future. Pick Michael Penix now. And it was, okay, that's what we're going to do.
And you can't say no. You know what? And that may end up really working out for them because I got to be honest. I think we've talked about this. I think you feel the same way. Michael Penix is probably going to be a long-time star in this league, and the Saints going to have to face him for many years going forward.
I'm a big Michael Penix fan. I was one of the few that had him. I thought he was a top 20.
I didn't see that.
Last year. I did not think he'd go that high, but I thought he was a top 20 pick. I just loved his leadership.
Yeah, I agree.
His ability to get the ball in tight spaces. He was smart, his processing. And also, too, Jim, I love the way he handled being scuffed in life.
Yeah.
Okay. Not everything is going to always be smooth. And the fact that, okay, he was at a high school out in Florida. He goes to Indiana. Not only has 1 knee surgery, 2 knee surgeries, leaves there because his coach leaves to go to Washington. He goes over there. And so he comes to the Manning Passing Academy. We had a long conversation, Mike and I. And he was like, I was like, what was the biggest adjustment? He said, I've thrown a hot ball before when it's wet. I've never thrown a cold one. He said, it's like a brick. So they called this little out pattern. And he said, I'd never thrown it in that type of conditions. It's late October, windy. It's raining. It's cold. And he said, man, the guy's wide open. So he said, man, I cock back. I throw it. It lands like 3 yards in front of him. And he was like, different world for me. You grew up in Florida. And then, you might say he played in some cold weather games in Indiana. But it wasn't that condition. My dad, when he was in the service after World War II, spent time in Washington. And he was like, it rained and was cold every day. And Penix almost told me the exact same thing my dad had told me many, many years ago. And he was like, that was the big adjustment for me. But he said, once I got it down. And boy, you saw it was the right decision by the Falcons to take Michael Penix.
Yeah, he was my second favorite quarterback in the draft, second highest on my own personal board, right below Jaden Daniels, and that includes Caleb Williams. Look, the jury's still out. We'll see what happens, but I think we'll see what happens with Caleb Williams. But Michael Penix was higher up. I just didn't think he would go, just from everything I'd heard. And that just goes to show, Mike, that's a perfect example of, people could say whatever they want. Oh, I thought he might go, because that's what Adam Schefter's like. If you read the top of his story, I thought he would go there. I'm like, I never saw anyone anywhere, certainly not Adam Schefter or anyone else that I read on a regular basis talking about Michael Penix going as high as 8. But whatever, if you said it, good for you. It just goes to show no one knows anything. It's the perfect example. There have been 3,226,479 mock drafts in the history of mock drafts, and there have been 0 that have been right, Mike. So we can sit here all night long, all day long, and have fun with it. But that's all it is in the end. It's just fun and speculation.
Yeah, I get asked to do it for WWL.
Of course.
This week in February, okay?
Right.
And then I did one over the weekend. Okay, I'm not doing that in between because, why don't you do it? Well, no. My opinion, I've learned this through 40 years of doing this. Your first impressions are the best. Because you see, for me,
that's right. I
when
agree.
I'm putting out my draft book, I had to go to the printer with this in early March. Okay, so, a lot of times, it was like March 10th, and so I could get it back around the 20th, because it's like a 10-day process.
Right.
And so, man, I hear so many things from, say, like March 8th or 9th when I give it to them and when I get it back. And I was like, man, I should change it. And throughout the years, you know what I said? The hell with it. I'm sticking with what I thought then is the best decision for me. And so there's only one change, sort of say where I thought a player would end up and where I think he'll end up now in my mock draft that we'll have on either sometime today or tomorrow on WWL.com. There's only one guy that kind of took a little bit of a slide. And it's just for me, having watched it over and over and over again, I'm not so sure that maybe that impression, I didn't pick up on some things. So that was only one real slide. Everybody else sort of stayed the same.
Dattitude podcast here this Monday morning. It's usually Mono E Monday, but with it being draft week, I wanted to get my favorite NFL analyst in there, and that is Mike Detillier, and we are here presented by Evangeline Securities. Mike, tell everybody about what's going on at WWL this week. Obviously, draft week, and I mean it's crazy, and you do a great job kind of advancing what you guys got going on. You can find Mike on X, and you can find him on Facebook. But man, it's just that crazy week. What y'all got planned?
Well, we start Thursday at 4:00, where we get an opportunity. Mike Hoss, Deuce McAllister, they're at the Saints game. So they get to talk right before the draft starts to Mickey Loomis, Kellen Moore, Michael Parrington, Jeff Ireland. Most of the assistant coaches come in to have a little sit down and talk with them. And every once in a while, you'll hear something. When Zach was doing it, he would text me, hey, man, I hear Coach Payton, he wants another toy. And so he would use language I would understand, but if I had the phone there and somebody's around me, they had no clue what Zach was trying to do. Right. Absolutely none. And so Bobby was, man, what the hell is a toy? He's like,
well, he should know.
So I knew what Zach meant. That was more of he wanted an offensive player and most likely a receiver. And so from 4 to 6 Thursday, we're going to be at the Saints camp, and at 6:00, it'll be myself, Bobby J, Steve Geller, Hoss and Deuce will be with us a little bit later in the broadcast to help out, and it early because you have the 9th overall pick, so that's going to be pretty quick. And then Friday we're on again from 4 to 11:30 or 12. Saturday's the long one. We start at
Saturday's gonna be a long day,
and we finish at 7 p.m. So we'll have all the picks. And normally for us, we're very fortunate that we can get every draft choice on with us. And so to hear that's
amazing.
That they'll come on, and You hear such excitement, and with some of them, I think it's just relief. Oh my God, this is over with finally, and I know where I'm at. And so you hear the excitement, and also you hear the relief of, man, this process is finally over with, and now I get to concentrate on just where I'm going to be, who I'm going to get coached by, and everything else, because they part of the Lion system too. They've been told by numerous coaches, GMs, everybody, we love you. We're going to pick you. And I've had some guys tell me this. I've been worked out by teams 2 or 3 times. Talk to the GM, talk to the head coach. Guess what? Not a sniff. And I get picked by a team. The only time I
that never even looked at them. Yeah.
They talked to him at the combine. That was it.
Happens all the time.
I don't understand this process. I get that a lot from people. Oh, Mr. Mike, I don't understand. Why so-and-so passed on me when they told me they would pick me at 19, and I get picked at 22 by a team that showed little interest. It's part of the Lion business that goes on this time of year.
I think teams spend so much time like trying to deke other teams than they do just going out there and not worrying about anything else. I mean, the Saints are famous for, I think the Saints, and that's why I think there's so much talk about quarterback. I don't think the Saints could take a quarterback. I mean, I just don't think they're going to. Now, they may prove me wrong Thursday night, and I'll say they proved me wrong, and all the experts are right. But the Saints are super famous at trying to throw shade out there and letting little words slip out here and there. Oh, the Saints love a quarterback. Makes somebody want to jump ahead of them and, go pick a quarterback. It happens all the time.
All the time. Now, the Saints did have a head coach. He was famous for Lion.
He was great at it. He still is.
He was professional doing it. And
him too.
And Jim, he would laugh about it because he knew I caught on to a little bit of what he was trying to do. And I've been in a room with him. He tells one reporter something, and the next reporter he talks to, he tells him something totally different. And he's seeing that I'm sort of watching, and he'll just look at me and he's like, it's part of the job. Okay, Jim, I get it. Coach, it's fine. Hey, it don't bother me none, But Randy Mueller used to always laugh about, man, we got a professional to do this. Coach Haslett is a professional in telling you one thing and then swaying you another. Back in January, I had Tyler Warren going to the Saints with the 9th overall pick. I'm not moving that.
We talked about it a couple months ago.
I'm picking.
We talked about that. You had me on a couple months ago, and I know you were talking about Tyler Warren. You've been on this show like 3 times in the last 3 or 4 months. That's what you've been talking about. And look, I can appreciate that. It's like you say, usually your first instincts are the right ones. Now, I don't necessarily look. I don't even know that I have it, but we're doing our mock draft Thursday, and I got to be honest. I don't know who I'm going to have the Saints picking at number 9 right now. I don't even know. It's too hard to judge, but I can certainly appreciate first instincts being the best ones. And why would you back off? What have we seen so far that would make anyone back off from whatever they thought back in February? Why wouldn't they still think that here on April the 21st?
I agree with you because you and I spoke about this with me and also when I was doing the Dattitude podcast about an offensive lineman. My gut feeling is Will Campbell, Armand Minbu will be there. They're both
right.
Off the board. So that sort of would take them out. Man, I'm not picking Kelvin Banks. And I'll be honest with you.
Yeah.
He's the guy for me that I had slightly ahead of Gray Zabel, who plays more center guard.
Yeah, he's center.
And Josh Simmons, who would have been a clear-cut 3 had he not had the surgery. With Kelvin, I think he's a much better guard than he is a tackle. Just watched him over and over and over again. And he took the little slide with me. So that's not an offensive lineman there. If you take Will Campbell and you take Minbu off the board, I think. Defensive lineman, would I love to see Mason Graham there? Yes. Will he be there? I'm going to say no.
That would be an interesting choice if he is there, and that might change because I've been saying, with all the moves that the Saints have made on defense, it would be hard for me to advocate taking a defensive lineman. But if he is there, and you see Jalen Walker, I got up there too. I mean, those guys obviously would come in and play roles right away.
Yeah, Jalen Walker to me is one of my favorites. I think he's a top 6 pick.
Yeah.
Because he plays linebacker on first and second down. And then I say, Jalen, sick him. Get after the quarterback.
Exactly.
Third down. And so in this kind of
Pat Swilling, is he like Pat Swilling?
He's not as tall as Pat. But man, he is so instinctive. He's a great leader. He rarely takes and breaking it down. And I'm almost like Zapruder-like. I'll break it like step for step for step. He rarely takes a false step to the football. What's even more impressive with him is how he gets around bigger guys. And I hear all the geniuses of the world. Well, I want to know how you can take that 330-pound guy and swing him around. Okay, he's 240 pounds. How many times is he going to beat that 330-pound guy because of power? This is a game of getting around heavy traffic. You're not playing junior high school or high school football anymore. But some people have that mindset. Jalen is so good at it. In essence, he knows exactly how to get around heavy traffic. I'll give you one name that if it's an out-of-the-box pick, and let's say a Tyler Warren's gone, and a Mason Graham's gone, the 2 linemen are gone, that I really like. And that's Michael Williams from Georgia.
Yeah, we've talked about him. Yeah.
Man, coming off the bus, that I gotta tell you, hey, he plays defensive end. He looks the part, plays the part. He's so smart. But the one thing, and I'll have Pete Jenkins on today. Pete and I talked a short time this morning. He was checking on me because I got a bad wheel and I got to get a new knee in May, and so that'll happen. So he was just checking to make sure I was still walking. But I told him, man, you watch all this tape of all these defensive linemen today, and 2 stick out to me that know what to do technically. Michael Green from Marshall, Michael Williams from Georgia. Now, Mike Green from Georgia has got a couple of issues off the field you will have to take a long look at. He was as dominant as any pass rusher last year at Marshall, and it didn't matter if you put 2 guys on him, you chipped him, he got away. He got a set of moves, counter moves. He knows how to get away. Michael Williams got bothered with a high ankle sprain. He played through it the entire year. But it's how he sets the edge as a run defender. And you see those long arms and his ability to get away from people. And from point A to point B, man, he is fast. And so if there's an out of maybe joint pick, and let's say you maybe get a great deal to move back a couple spots.
Oh, that'd be great.
Somebody is targeting a player. The name I would tell you is Michael Williams from Georgia. The Saints brass didn't get on that private plane and go to Georgia because they wanted to see or go eat in Athens, Georgia. I think Jalen Walker, I think they know is most likely not going to be there. Michael Williams is a guy that I think has come up in discussions with them, and there's some intrigue there. And he to me is the second most technically sound defensive end in this draft class. But if everything goes kind of like I think Tyler Warren's there, he won't be there at 10.
Someone else asked, I'm only bringing this up because a commenter brought it up, and I think if you're looking for possibility, Saints are famous for throwing out names like, okay, that's not one we really talked about. That they do it a lot. And so there is a name that you haven't mentioned that a commenter mentioned earlier. What about Shamar Stewart? Do you think he's a guy that is potential? I mean, I haven't really heard the Saints talk about him all that much, but I mean, is he something when you're looking at?
He's a great looking athlete. He really is. I mean, he is what you would say. That's what I want a defensive end to look for. How many plays has he made? And when you watch A&M, do you say that's a dominant guy?
I didn't.
he's a one-trick pony at this stage.
I agree.
That makes one move, and then he doesn't know how to get to the second level. You would think after a period of time, he would have gotten better counter moves. Do I think he'll go in round one? Yes.
Oh, for sure.
But not at 9 or 10. And I see numerous guys putting Shamar at 9. My thing is, you have not watched one game of Stewart if you're putting him at the 9 spot. You're not one. Now, you're drafting him off the most dreaded word in sports. Potential. Man, I don't want potential. I want production.
Saints can't draft potential right now.
No, you can forget that. So I get where you're coming from. Athletically, he looks the part. I do think he may not get out of the top 20 because
I don't think he will. Yeah,
somebody's going to fall in love with his athletic talent. My thing is flip the tape on. A great example was against LSU, which he had a clear shot to get inside on Nussmeier, and he just sort of kind of got lost in the tracks of where am I? Okay, he beat his man, but then he sort of lost track of where's Nussmeier on the play.
Right.
That to me, and I know Pete will get much more into it. I feel, as somebody who's been doing this for 40 years, it's the most underdeveloped position of any college and pros, defensive lineman.
Yeah,
but
I agree.
You're faster, stronger. I can beat you with that as a high school guy. All of a sudden, you get into college, there's a few guys that can match up with me. You get into pros, they all match up against you.
Well, and that's the thing. And when you get to the pros, you're not in college, you're not playing someone that's 6'6", 320 every week. If you're trying to go around some tackle, every tackle now is 6'5", 6'6", 6'7", 320. It doesn't work that way in college.
No, and so I would let somebody else have the Shamar Stewart project. I would let somebody else deal with it. I think the one guy that really made strides this year as a technician was Walter Nolan, who was at A&M, goes to Ole Miss. Man, he was a handful. He was a much better technician last year than he was, say, the first 2 years at A&M. But I don't know what was happening at A&M. I think it was just they were rotating all those guys and saying, hey, just get after the quarterback.
Right.
Don't worry about the run. And teams are running the ball on them. Now, they had a new regime this year, and you saw it run a little bit different. I think it threw Shamar off a little bit, that he wasn't just able to just tee off and get after the quarterback. So I'm just telling you, we're going to have a record-setting year of defensive linemen. I've never had 24 of my top 75 defensive linemen.
Even with my show of math, Mike, I can tell you that's 1/3. I used it real quick. You see how I did that?
So my thing is, how many of those are really ready to play? How many? I would say 5 to 6 are ready to play now. The rest of them have a lot of work to be done with their overall game. I felt the same thing. You and I talked about this with Brian Bursay, and I think he was a really good player. He's been as advertised. He is a flash. Get up the field. Get up to the quarterback, get into the backfield. Where he didn't do good, he didn't know how to lure his honks and play against the run. So if I see him in the game, my thing is we running the football at Bryant, and their former defensive line coach, he was lousy. Todd Grantham, and he was.
I would say
he didn't know how to coach these guys to stay lower. And not that I say, Cam Jordan said it. Man, we learned so much more from Brian Young than we learned from the former coach. Okay, it's not throwing him under the bus, but you just can't say go sick him every play. And I think with Bo Davis, that's the one guy that I think you're going to see much better run defense play, because Bo knows how to coach. I
I don't want to get off on the tangent of like talking about what we already have, because there's a couple, and I only have you for a limited time. So there's a couple of questions I want to ask you about what we could have. But one thing, you and I have talked about this. I don't know how Brian Brisset works in this new defense that the Saints, that's one of the most interesting. When you talk about 5 questions the Saints have going into the 2025 season, well, there's a lot more than 5. But that's going to be up there at the top. Brian Brisset in the 3-4 defense. I just think that's an interesting question and an interesting prospect.
I think he's better a little flanked more out to the edge.
Mm-hmm, I agree.
More to his athleticism, his takeoff, his hand placement.
Which is not what they really drafted him as.
No, but everything is hybrid today. Okay.
I agree.
Standard 4-3. It's not a standard 3-4. Now, the one thing the Saints will have to change is going to be body types at linebacker. Because if you're going to play a 3-4, you are going to need a bigger player. You're just going to need a bigger linebacker at that position, because now he's got to take on linemen now.
Right.
In certain situations. So see how, this team has so many needs, so many places they have to add different people to. But, I'm convinced that if Warren's there, that's who they pick. He gives you a big man receiver, a big target guy. He can help you out in the running game because of the top tight ends. He's the best run blocker of the group.
I can't argue with that. I mean, that's definitely true. I mean, look, and I got to be honest. I think overall this draft is probably thinner at tight end than we've seen. Maybe it's a need, but the only thing, Mike, is you just spent $30 million on Juwan Johnson. I'm not saying that should exclude Tyler Warren, because it certainly does not. But when you, and again, that's not, and again, in these days, $30 million over 3 years isn't a ton of money like it was even 5-7 years ago. But you invested in Juwan Johnson. I don't know. I don't know if you talk about the Saints' needs, they have so many gaping needs. That's a need, but it's not a quote unquote gaping need, in my opinion. I don't know. But I'm not going to be upset if they take that.
Here's my thing about if you pick an early. If you have spent all this time and money and effort, you cannot get off the board to reach for a position that you
that's true.
Absolutely have to have. Think about it in your personal life, and we've all been through it. Sometimes it's younger in your life. Sometimes, as you get older, you're a little bit more financially secure, so you don't have to make certain decisions real quickly. You can think it out. The worst decisions most of us have made in life, and our personal decisions, have been times that we think we sort of boxed. We have to make a decision, and sometimes, I don't want to use the word desperation, but we feel as though it's the only option, and we make it. And if you'd have been happened 10 years later, you'd have said, I never would have done it.
You've been reading my diary, Mike Detillier.
No, but but do I hear diaries today now? Man, I hear them from A to Z about certain people's issues. But I think about it a lot in the course of life, and it's the same way athletically. That I think if you've spent all this time and effort and everything involved, you can't get away from that. That's when you're going to make mistakes. Growing up in my youth, I saw the Saints pick one bad pick after another. Well, we need a receiver. We need an offensive lineman so bad, we're going to pick him. And you made mistake after mistake after mistake. And that's the same part of our life every day, so to speak. We make decisions. But I think if you're picking in the top 10 and you have spent that much time on a board, you can't throw it away. And I have to laugh, and he's a good pal of mine, but Mel Kiper did this about a month and a half ago. He had a mock first round, no Jackson Dart in it. The next mock, he's got Jackson Dart going to the Saints at 9.
Don't get me started.
Then I think about 2 weeks ago, he's got Jackson Dart going to the Rams in the mid-20s. My thing is, I can understand if you hear about somebody and there maybe is a medical issue or maybe something doesn't jive. But man, to move a guy around that much, and God bless him, I think a lot of Mel. He has certainly done a lot for the business. And
he used to be phenomenal.
Yeah, but now he's more. He loves to move the checkers all over the board, and he will always tell me, "Why don't you do it?" And I'm like, "No, I refuse to because my first instincts tell me your first thought is the right one." Your first thought and impression is the right one on him.
I can appreciate that you haven't changed because I'm not going to get into Mel Kiper. Like I said, he used to be phenomenal. And I think part of the reason why he does that is because he can say, if any of those things happen, he can say, well, you see, I was right. But which time were you right is the point. Look, we only got a few more minutes here left with you, 5-7 more minutes. And there's something that I definitely want to, you know how I am with, I like to follow the money and follow the odds. And to me, that says a lot about if I don't know how they know, but they do get inside information. I think a lot of time the odds makers are following the current news and what they've seen. But it's noticeable that there has been a slight change after Adam Schefter. And you heard what I said, and you know what Adam Schefter said a couple of weeks ago. Quarterback, Shador, blah, 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 blah. And now he's like, I don't think the Saints are going to take Shador. But if you look at the odds, on Friday, I showed these odds, and this is what they were on Friday. Quarterback -110, which basically means even money. The Saints going to take a quarterback in the first round. Also means even money. They aren't going to take a quarterback in the first round. Defensive lineman, and this is where the big change comes in from Friday to today. And I'm going to show you today in a minute. Take a good look at this. The defensive line +400, which means if you put down $100 that the Saints going to draft a defensive lineman, and they did, well, you'd get $400 in return. If you believed Mike Detillier that the Saints would take Tyler Warren, you put $100 down on it, and they did, and Mike was right. You'd win $700. Now, this morning, these are the odds. They have changed. Defensive lineman and tight end has actually changed a decent amount. Now the odds are this morning. Quarterback stayed pretty much the same, going down a little bit, -105, which means it's going away from quarterback a little bit. But defensive lineman changed from +400, Mike, to +280, and tight end from +700 to +600, which means there is more thinking. And I think maybe even by the time we get off this show, they're going to change again because of what Schefter said. But we see the odds makers now maybe backing off a quarterback just a little bit. They're hearing little chirps. Maybe the Saints will take a defensive lineman or a tight end.
Yeah, I don't think there's any question about it. It would be my thought that if you're picking at 9, the 2 top offensive linemen, which you and I have talked about, they're going to be off the board. So then it brings you down to who's the best defensive lineman there and who's the best offensive skill player there available. Is it a receiver or a tight end? To me, I do know one guy in the Saints organization that, man, he's got a love affair with Tyler Warren. I mean, and he ain't been non-vocal about it, that he thinks a lot. And he said this back in September and October. So my thing is, why is he getting off of that now if he spoke about it in those efforts then?
Yeah.
And he does have a lot of say in this organization. So I somewhat agree that if Warren's there, you pick him. If not, I'll give you the name.
I think he's going to be there unless the Jets take him. I think he's going to be there unless the Jets take him, Mike. I do. I think that you go and look for. I just think that Tyler Warren is going to be there. And I know one thing, even if that's not exactly what every Who-Dat wants, I don't think you'd find hardly anyone that would be pissed off at that pick. I think most people would be saying, okay, that's not really what I wanted, but okay, I can live with that. That Saints, it is what it is.
Okay, you watched him at Penn State. And man, I read some of this stuff about their quarterback, Drew Allard, that, he's the next Peyton Manning.
Yeah, right.
My thing is, you cannot watch a Penn State game and not watch him throw 4 or 5 really bad.
Exactly.
Okay, my thing, let me not get into that, but they got people who are these analytical nerds of the world. They go by a certain stat and this and that. They do not watch film. They get printouts of this is what he does here and there. They don't show you or don't explain to you how a guy like Tyler Warren, he caught over 100 passes. Name me the other receivers on the Penn State roster. Most people, you hear dead silence. You know why?
You just heard from me.
Okay, because if I'm playing Penn State, I'm not trying to have Tyler Warren beat me. So I bracket coverage him. He beats it every time. He's got a knack for finding that little hole, that little crease, and then pow, the ball's, his hands are out, he catches it. Then he's a load to bring down in the open field. And he can run. And he's a tough guy. And you think about, he was a high school quarterback. They didn't know exactly what they were going to do with him. He played H-back, halfback, fullback, regular tight end. He played the wide receiver spot. He was a gadget quarterback.
So you think he could be a Taysom Hill type?
He does a lot of things, and that's why he would fill the need. When you look at your receiving core, they're smaller guys. Now you put a big guy out there. But the other part about Tyler is that he can help you in the running game as an inline blocker.
Okay. Well, I want offense. I mean, for me, look, again, some of these defensive guys we talked about and that aren't, are coming in surefire starters. You can't be upset if that's where the Saints go. Okay. But I think this team needs offense more than anything. You know that I'm for Campbell or Membu. I agree with you. The further we go along, I thought a month ago that one of them would probably be there. I'm starting to think that they're both going to be gone as well, which leave the odds makers tell you they're both going to be gone. And you can't reach there. I agree with you. So with that, saying that the Saints need offense, look, Tyler Warren, if he can do all these things that you're talking about doing, you and I think both feel like, look, Taysom Hill, when you're 35 and you had that knee injury like he's had, we don't know if he's going to come back, much less, even if he does come back, like how effective he's going to be at that age. I just think that having someone that could be dominating like that and can do different things, Kellen Moore's got to be intrigued by a player like that for sure.
And when I post, and we should have done this a month ago, but we'll do it now. It's more relevant. My 9th rated player on my board, Tyler Warren. Now, I'm not saying 8 might not be there, but he is 9th. So he is basically picked.
Dane Brugler is 8th, so he's right there with you.
He's picked where you have him rated.
Yeah, he's right up there. Again, you're not going to – no one's going to be upset if the Saints take – I can't say no one because there are a lot of –
they're going to have some upset.
A lot of goofy people out there. But no one with comments. Gabe's going to be upset. Well, you're a Texan. That's why, because you won't follow the Texans. All right. Last question for you. Okay. We haven't really talked. I thought we would talk more about quarterback. I don't think we really need to talk about Shedeur Sanders. I think you and I are in agreement. I don't see the Saints drafting Shedeur Sanders. I just don't. I not just because of Neen. I just don't see that being the pick here. So his stock's going down. I'm going to talk more about Shedeur Sanders when Mike goes off the air with us a minute. A lot of people linking Jackson Dart, but here's mine thing, Mike. And I've changed. I said this with Doug Mouton the other day, who was on the show Friday. There is one quarterback I find of the group at the top that I find super intriguing. And if the Saints took him in the second round, I wouldn't be upset, especially if they traded down, which they're not going to do, but they traded down. And I think even though Jalen Milroe is not has had trouble with his accuracy, he is so intriguing because of his athleticism. And I think that even if he came in and they wanted to talk about making him a quarterback and it didn't work out, if he didn't work out as a quarterback, there are so many things I think in the NFL that Jalen Milroe can do and will do.
Okay, he's not ready for prime time.
I agree with that.
I think all of us will agree on that. In his good games, he's really good. In his bad,
that's very true.
He's really bad. His athletic skills are off the chart. He is as good an athlete as you will find at that position. I told this to Charlie Long, my producer, a couple months back, and he was like, Mike, you're pretty good with the comps. I said, you know who he reminds me of? He reminds me of Jalen Hurts coming out of Alabama. Not that Jalen.
Not that went to Oklahoma, right?
You, because that guy was a much more refined passer. One thing with Lincoln Riley, man, he does a great job with quarterbacks. And I think you saw much more confident Hurts throwing the ball, knowing where to go with it. So I think there's a lot that's close between the two of them at that point when he was leaving Alabama to go to OU, and now you see Milroe today. The funny thing is, I think harken back to the Manning camp, and every day I'd go watch Milroe throw the football. And so I'm standing up by the gate, and there was one other guy that was with me. Now, he would walk in the gate and go walk and talk to him. Bill Belichick.
Mm-hmm.
Belichick
Right.
was not there in Thibodeau because he loved the 98-degree weather with 2,000 degree humidity. It ain't Tahiti in July. And one day, as he walked off the field, he looked at me and he was like, "That guy's really good." And okay, one thing with Belichick, he doesn't say a lot about a lot, but you could tell, man, he saw you got some talent. Now, here's the best part with it. The quarterback, who they pick here, if it's Dart or if it's Milroe, whoever, that will be Kellen Moore's first major decision.
Yep.
Coach. Because I think, when you look, he probably had a lot of input on the free agents. Oh, when you played against this guy, when you played against Davin Godchaux, what you see with that, with, some of the offensive linemen that you brought in, what do you see on tape? But I do think this is his first kind of the chalk's in your hand. Who do you
That's
want?
why it would be interesting. That's why. And somebody posted, our friend Who Dat Daddy, who is a regular on listener and watcher of the show, says his accuracy sucks. But to your point, Mike Detillier, while you were talking, I went and got it. Jalen Hurts, his completion percentage at Alabama his first year was 62.8. It was 60.6 in 2017. And then when he went to Oklahoma, it jumped up to 70%, Mike.
Bingo.
So just because someone's accuracy, quote unquote, sucks, and I agree, it hasn't been good. But couldn't Kellen Moore take on a guy like that? And I'm saying in the second round. In the second round, I'm willing to spend a second round pick on a guy who, to me, Jalen Milroe has just so much potential. I'm okay with potential in the second round, especially if he can do something else for you. And again, I think Jalen Milroe could be, if it comes to that, could be better than Taysom Hill at being Taysom Hill. I really believe that.
The only thing, Pete Jenkins always tells me this, Mike, he said, I'm there and I'm worried about the defensive linemen and the linebackers when I worked with Coach Saban. He said, that was my thing. But he said, I always would pay attention to the quarterbacks there. But he said, look, all the first round pick guys that Hurts was throwing to. Name me a guy at Alabama. Okay. He said it sort of ended when the Tua era ended. But the top receivers, you can't say Milroe. Now, you had a freshman last year that was through the charts.
Yeah.
I mean, that guy was unbelievable. But you're still talking about an 18-year-old guy. Other than him, and he was fantastic. That is the one area when I looked at Alabama's recruiting that has taken a real plunge. It's been at the wide receiver spot other than that one superstar guy that you brought in last year. Look at the accuracy skills of Milroe and compare those numbers at Alabama to what Hurts did at Alabama.
Very similar.
It's eerily similar.
Very similar. And that's why I think Kellen Moore, look, you put Kellen Moore and let Doug Nussmeier go at it and have a year or two with this guy. And as Nick Marsh, as UBN says, Milroe could be Debo if he wants to be. I think he could be a lot of things, but we're going to end your segment on this because I don't think we're going to agree on this next part, but we may. I don't know. I never asked you this, but here's why. Another reason why I think you could have 1 or 2 years with Milroe, because I think this whole Carr fiasco BS is a whole bunch of nothing. I think that when it comes down to it, Derek Carr is going to be in here. I think Derek Carr is going to start on opening day for the Saints. I know people don't agree with me. I know people think there's way more. I think it's all them posturing against one another. And so if you were to draft a guy like Jalen Milroe and you let Kellen Moore and Doug Nussmeier work with him for a year and you find ways to get him in a ball game and Derek Carr plays this year, maybe he's ready in 26, maybe he isn't, whatever. I just think that gives you an opportunity to build something for this future. And I do think that Jalen Milroe potentially, not saying he is, I think potentially could be your quarterback of the future.
Jim, I thought the whole Derek Carr situation caught the Saints flat-footed. They were not prepared for.
Should have been.
And listen, you and I disagreed, but I always felt he did not want to be here. He was going to try to force his way out. You were better off cutting him loose and sending him adrift. And I get it. You couldn't have really played in free agency. And so it's okay for us to differ on opinions.
Of course it is.
But I don't know where this story goes next, because is there another option for Derek Carr? Man, I heard about somebody trading.
Is there another option for the Saints if they don't go draft one?
You got to be kidding me, right? Am I going to take that contract? I know the Saints are paying part of it.
No one's taking that contract.
Man, my thing is, okay, he might have a suitor or two if he's a free agent, if he's cut loose after June 1st. I can't see a team saying, I'm gonna give up a draft pick for Derek Carr.
I also can't see a team, Mike, saying I'm going to eat $90 million, which in the grand scheme over the course of 2 years, that's what the Saints would eat over the course of 2 years if they decide we just ain't playing Derek Carr and we're just going to eat it. I don't see that either. It doesn't make sense.
And so I think now for the Saints, their deal is, what move is next? Other than say, hey, listen, Derek, let's all sit down. Let's all try to talk this out. And my thing is, I think reasonably sane people can figure something out. If you're upset that you're a bridge quarterback, tough. Man, listen.
I agree with you.
We year to year, we roll off ratings, we roll off whatever. Everybody's sort of year to year on things. Why are you so upset about this predicament? And I think you could talk that out if you wanted to. And I agree with you. Milroe's not ready for prime time, but I could find some spots where, man, he could be really useful to me during the season as a runner, as a passer, and we work from there.
Last question, and then I know you've already been gracious. I told you it would be about a 30-minute segment. Here we are. We're almost here in an hour. But talking to you is just, I could literally, like, if we went down, sat, and had coffee, I'd be jittery by the time I left because I'd probably have 5 cups before I walked out of the place. But my last question is, you're great at predictions. Who is the Saint? Who is going to be under center when the Saints take their first offensive snap on? I think it's September the 7th. I'm not 100%. September 8th, whatever day it is, when the Saints play their first game of the 2025 season. What quarterback is going to be under center for the New Orleans Saints?
It won't be Derek Carr.
It won't be Derek Carr. Okay. Is it going to be a draft pick? Is it going to be Spencer Rattler? Or who's it going to be?
It would have to be, and if I had to bet, it would be more Rattler than the draft pick at this stage of the game. But Jim, I have a lot of I don't knows about the Derek Carr.
A lot of I don't knows about a lot of things.
Anybody else, I don't know why he would have waited and strategically waited that late in the process.
Because if it's on him, and I don't know that it is on him or not, but if it is on him and he did this the whole time, I'm going to tell you why. Because he knows, and if he did this, I have no defense for him whatsoever. But he knows he has the Saints over a barrel because it's either him, or it's a first round draft pick. Because there ain't. personally, y'all know what I think about the Rat. I don't think the Saints have any chance to win with Spencer Rattler's quarterback. That being said, I would much rather see Spencer Rattler play quarterback and start for the Saints. And the Saints said, go to hell, Derek Carr. If that's what happened, and do that, then see the Saints reach and take a quarterback at number 9, because there are so many. This is not a quarterback draft. You talk about all the things you talked about all these surefire defensive players, because there are plenty. You talked about Tyler Warren. If somehow Ashton Genty fell to 9, we didn't even get into that. All these things. The Saints cannot afford to reach and take a quarterback at 9, in my opinion. If they want to take one in the second round and even trade up to get one, like the rumors are now, that's fine. And I think that's why Derek Carr, if he did that, that's why he would do it, because he knows that he's got him over a barrel and they're stuck because they're not going to eat $90 million. Common sense tells you they won't.
And the other part, too, is the fact that the way his contract is structured, I get paid no matter what. Okay?
Correct.
And so he really does have you
100%.
You could use a lot of different terms on it. But it is accurate. He sort of got you in a got you moment. Okay?
That's why I think he's going to start.
And
they don't have a choice.
We'll see what happens there. And the other thing about tanking, and I'll do this real quick. I hear all these people, they call in or they text me for Arch. My comment to them, tell me the last Manning to come out early for the draft. None of them. Peyton, everybody thought he'd come out early. He played his last year at Tennessee. Eli played his last year at Ole Miss.
That's right.
We in the NIL era, look what Little Arch is making at Texas. I hate to say it, but drill it through your head. He's playing 2 years at Texas. He's not coming out.
I'm starting to agree with you.
25 season.
Yeah, I think you're right. And look, Mike, even if he said tomorrow, I'm playing one season, which he would never do. But even if he said tomorrow, I'm playing one season in Texas, I'm coming out, and it was guaranteed that he would be the number 1 pick taken in the draft, which is ridiculous to say that. You'd literally have to lose on purpose. Like, you'd have to go out there and lose on purpose to say you're going to get the number 1 pick of the draft. The Saints have had the number 1 pick in the draft once in their history. They picked George Rodgers, great pick, whatever. But this, not only is there no guarantee, it's more of a likelihood that you wouldn't get the first pick of the draft. So it's just ridiculous anyway.
A pretty strong chance you wouldn't. But again, I go back to something his grandfather told me. Mike, you only go to college one time in your life. And I've always told Arch, it doesn't matter to me where you go. You know where I'd want you to go. But wherever you want to go, you do it. But enjoy your time in college.
Absolutely.
Because you only get that moment in time once. And he said, Mike, that's the only thing I told Peyton. It's the only thing I told Eli. And he said, I wake up that morning and I knew Peyton was going to come back. And every paper, ESPN, everybody was saying Peyton's coming out early. And he said, I knew he wasn't. I just kept myself.
No, I mean, it's not a surprise. And I think Arch does the same thing. Well, we're going to say I'll tell you what, this might be the most intriguing 4 to 5 months of Saints, the most certainly off season. I mean, I think people are more interested in this off season than they were about the entire last regular season. So I think we're going to
but I agree.
Look, everybody go out there, watch listen to Mike Detillier on WWL radio all week long. And like he said, Thursday, they start at 4:00. They're going to get every draft pick on there. You can switch back and forth. You can have the live Dattitude and Saints Insider podcast on your YouTube, and you can have WWL radio on at the same time. You can go back and forth and see who's agreeing with what. And then Friday and Saturday, live the whole time, they're going to talk to every draft pick. Mike, I can't wait to see what y'all got going on this week. And thank you so much for taking time out. Busy week. It is one of our favorite weeks of the year. Mike Detillier here on the Dattitude podcast.
Thank you, Jim. Always my pleasure.
Talk to you soon. Good luck this week, my friend. Buddy. Mike Detillier here on the Dattitude podcast. Again, I don't even know why I even say it anymore. I say, Mike's going to be on for 20 minutes, 25 minutes, 30 minutes. And then I can't stop asking him questions. He keeps answering them. So there you go. One of these days, we're actually going to do a 20-minute segment. I don't know how. We're gonna find a way. But I appreciate him for being so gracious to come on. Gabe's coming on in a little bit. There are definitely some things that I want to go back to. I'm rolling way back into the comment machine here. First off, let's see, where did I want to? I don't want to go too far back because then I'll never get current. Corey Atkins says, dude, it's time to move on from Taysom Hill type player. Kellen Moore is not from the Sean Payton tree. Taysom Hill only had a career in New Orleans. Corey, who in the hell wouldn't want a Taysom Hill if they couldn't have one? There ain't a coach on planet Earth. There isn't a single coach on planet Earth. I'm not talking about Taysom Hill right now. I'm talking about Taysom, the concept of Taysom Hill. That's crazy. The Rook says Carr is not playing this year. Want to bet? 30 teams don't want that, Gabe says. Completely and utterly disagree. I mean, just because someone doesn't know what to do with a Taysom Hill, they figure out in a hurry. I'm just saying. Daryl Romero says, I'm happy with the tight end alignment. We just need so much. Who dat? We do need so much. 100% we need too much. So much. No doubt about it. Trade him to the Raiders for what? I don't know. I guess you're talking about Carr. I don't think that's what you're talking about. Kent Hathorn. Carr is becoming more injury prone. He's not becoming more injury prone just because he says he's got a shoulder injury, which I don't believe. He's not becoming more injury prone. At least I will say this, Kent. Your comment at least more realistic than the people. People have stopped saying this since I've proven them wrong. Carr's always been injury prone. And then when I proved them wrong that he's not always been injury prone, that last year was basically the first year he had any serious injury that affected his play and how long he missed. People stopped saying it at least. Who dat daddy? I know how much you hate Derek Carr. I know. I get it. Who dat daddy? They will cut him post June 1st. The fan base is done with him. No one cares if the fan base is done with him. I don't know how many times to say this. The Saints don't give a rat's ass what you, me, Joe Q season ticket holder, or anyone else. They don't even care what the other players in the locker room think. They just don't. They've proven that time and time again. They kept Dennis Allen last year when I promise you, of the 53 players that were in that locker room on the last day of the season in 2003 or January of 2004, when they scored against the Falcons, everybody gave, and Dennis Allen put it all on Jameis Winston and apologized. Every single player wanted Dennis Allen gone, and Saints administration didn't care. And they don't care what you think about Derek Carr. They just don't. Money. It's about money and what makes sense. If you hate Derek Carr, which is most of you, where is it? Here it is, David Nola. I've never seen 95% of the fan base hate a starting quarterback more on a personal level as this fan base hates Carr. It's honestly insane. Couldn't agree more. Now, again, if his camp is putting out all this crap and he's trying to hold the Saints over a barrel and he's playing a game of chicken, I hope he loses. And I'm going to be on the fan. I'm going to be on the 95% side. If we find out that's true, I'm on your side. Because that's a bunch of horse hockey. No one should do that. If he's playing the I got you over a barrel game and ain't nothing you can do about it, I hope the Saints say, screw it. I'll go with the rat. Because that's how I roll. I mean, you piss me off and, yeah, I hold grudges. I don't think that's the case. I don't think that's the case. I could be wrong. I'm definitely not saying because I don't think anybody really knows except for the people that are involved in this thing. And that includes the Adam Schefters of the world, the Ian Rappaports of the world, and certainly Diana Rossini, who I think just makes up stuff half the time. All these reporters, and again, I don't want to be ADHD, all these reporters just throw stuff out there. No one talks about when they're wrong. They only talk about when they're right. Just about what we talked about with Mel Kiper a little while ago. He has all these different mock drafts with Jackson Dart all over the place. And I promise you, whatever happens with if Jackson Dart slides to the second round, he would tell you, I was right about Jackson Dart. And people won't give him grief except for a couple moments on X, and then it'll be over. And people will be back to remember him. Hakeem, what's going on? Just saying. Derek Carr, what makes sense? Money makes sense. It doesn't matter that you don't like Derek Carr. It doesn't matter that he'll get booed on opening day. Because you know what? They'll hate him just like they hated him going into this past year. And the Saints started out 2-0, and there were people like, I don't know. I'm not really giving them the benefit of the doubt. I'm just not going to say anything. Because the haters, they didn't disappear, but they didn't have a whole lot to say either after that 2-0 start. And then, bam, they came back in a heartbeat. That's what will happen again. As much as you hate Derek Carr now, if the Saints started out, if he came back and started, and the Saints were like 4-2 and led the division by a game, and then later were, I'm not saying this is going to happen. I'm just saying if it did, and then they were 6-3 or they're 7-4, and they're leading the division by 2 games at Thanksgiving. I'm not saying I was forgiven, but there won't be, the Derek Carr's haters will be silent. They'll still hate him, but they'll be silent. That's what's going to happen. Carr's worn on his welcome. Yeah, for you. Mally Mal, this is a pathetic franchise begging a quarterback to say. We don't know that that's what's happening. We don't know anyone's begging. I think they're both playing a game. I think they're both playing a stupid game. You know who's going to lose in this game? The Saints are going to lose. They're not going to eat $90 million. It doesn't make sense. Even for the Saints, who y'all think make all these dumb moves, it doesn't make sense for the Saints to just eat $90 million of cap space. They're not going to do it. And they're not going to find a trade partner either. They can't force Carr to play. They're not going to have to force him to play. He's getting paid. Guess what happens if you say, I'm not coming to work? You know what happens? You stop getting paid. It's not going to happen. This is the dumbest. Oh, okay. I don't respect this comment at all. I thank you for being a part of the Dattitude family because you are here a lot. Okay. But this is the dumbest comment of the month. And you know how many comments we've had over the past month? This is the dumbest comment of the month. If we had a candidate, Gabe, for dumbass of the week, if we were doing it, this comment might be number 1. If Carr does play, Carr will lose on purpose. That is the dumbest comment of the month. Nobody's going to lose on purpose. What? Do y'all just wake up? I really think some of y'all wake up in the morning and go, I hate Derek Carr. Oh, God. Is Derek Carr still saying? First thing to do is check their phone up. Still saying, damn it. Jeez. Seriously. UBN Mike is in a rocking chair. I'll interview legend. Maybe I'll do that. Ryan, Genty at number 9 if he follows an old Tyler Shuck for a quarterback. I'm not a Tyler Shuck fan at all. The more I look at Tyler Shuck, the less of a fan I am. Barry, Ulay, I'm sorry I'm late, but has anyone reported how Carr hurt his shoulder? No. Has anyone reported that Carr actually said his shoulder is hurt? No. Just saying. Eric Dodd says, if it's true and we have to pay him anyway, don't grant his wish. Make him hold a clipboard the next 2 years. If they had the balls to do that, I'd respect the hell out of them. Amen. And if we find out that he's trying to hold the Saints over a barrel, by all means, bring him in. Make him sit his ass home. Make him say, I'm not coming, and then you don't have to take his money. I'm all about it. All about it. Who that daddy? I get it. He's rubbed you wrong since he was with the Raiders, done nothing to change him mind. He's not going to change him mind. Saints could go 17-0. 17-0. They could win the Super Bowl, and y'all would still hate you some Derek Carr and want him going the next year. I promise you. If the Saints won the Super Bowl with Derek Carr as their starting quarterback, I think there'd still be 40 to 50% of y'all that would say, I want him gone. Yay, we won a Super Bowl. Hate him. Get him out of here. I don't know. David Nola says, honestly, this Carr stuff seems like typical Saints draft time smoke screen. I think a lot of this is draft day smoke screen. I think that's what people are automatically, and I said this, brought this up in the beginning of the show, and I think I said it last week. People are just automatically assuming that Derek Carr is saying this. Go and look at every article that has a source where at least they're saying where the source, nobody's saying who the source is, but at least the ones who are naming where the sources have come from, all of those sources have come from the Saints side of things. Why are you just assuming that Derek Carr is out there saying his shoulder and he might have to have surgery? Why are you just assuming it's his agent? Has anyone quoted his agent as saying that? I haven't seen it. If it has happened, please send me a link. I'll go look at it. I'm glad to tell you I'm wrong, and I'll quote the link. Apathy. That's my speculation. It's everybody's speculation. They're just automatically assuming that Carr said it. Gabe said it. It's a game of chicken. I think they're both playing chicken. Gary Thomas Bradford. If Carr ends up starting, what he will do is play the way he plays, but at the same time, it's very suspicious how he's doing. I'm not a fan of his, but I don't care who the quarterback is as long as we're winning games. That should be the attitude of every fan. Again, the Carr haters, it happens every single day on this show. The Carr haters are just saying I'm taking up for him. I'm not taking up for Derek Carr. There are plenty of things that Derek Carr has done wrong. And first of all, even if it is the Saints that are throwing this out, which would be BS in its own right, the fact that he's not coming out and saying anything unless he's in cahoots with the Saints, which I seriously doubt. Maybe they're just like having some behind the scenes like tete-a-tete. I mean, Derek Carr, at the bare minimum, should be on his quote-unquote podcast that no one's watching saying, here's what's wrong with my shoulder. He's not doing that. That's dumb. Jeff Duncan, apparently, according to GP, said it pretty clearly. It isn't coming from the Saints, and it is coming from Carr's side. Then either Jeff Duncan or other well-respected writers are wrong. Somebody's wrong, and whatever it is, no one's telling anybody the whole truth. Neither side is telling anybody the whole truth. I promise you, no matter who's right and who's wrong, or if somebody's half right and the other person's half right, which means somebody's half wrong and the other person's half wrong. Because like I said, I dare anyone to go out there and find that quote-unquote rumor coming from Carr's camp. You can't find one because it doesn't exist. But you can go out and find lots of reports that the quote-unquote Saints, someone inside the Saints organization is saying XYZ. Just saying. Are we doing a mock draft? Yes, Thursday. Thursday show. We're not gonna have a Friday show this week. There is no Friday show this week. So we're moving the Friday show to Thursday morning. Multiple reasons why we're not doing a Friday show. The main reason is because we're going to be on the air live here from like 6 p.m. I think we're going 6:30. I don't know. I got to figure out what time we're going. I don't know. They told me, but I forgot. We're going on live a half an hour before the draft starts. So whatever the draft starts, a half an hour before that. And we're going to be on until after the 32nd pick is made. That includes during the Saints pick, before us, during and after. We're going to be live. So there's not going to be a show on Friday. I actually may do something over the weekend if it's warranted. We'll see. Not, we'll wait till Monday. But there's no show Friday morning. Besides all that, I wanted to do a mock draft. I don't want to do it Wednesday because Eric's going to come on and talk. Eric Asher is going to talk just like Mike Detillier today. It's going to be just tell me what you think kind of thing. Gabe says we have reports that essentially, I don't want essentially. I mean, I'm not trying to be mean. Essentially say it's Carr's camp without saying it verbatim. I have read stories that verbatim, 100%, it reads, a source inside the Saints organization said. I don't have anyone who's directly attributing anything to Carr's camp. Nowhere. Again, if you got something, please share a link. If you're saying, even if one of my people, because I read all of our Saints stuff, I haven't seen it. Show me. What's the end game? Charles Mangus wants to know. Who knows? The end game. Do we even talk about all this crap? If we're going to talk about it all offseason regardless, but if September the 7th, September the 8th, Derek Carr is there and he's a starting quarterback and he goes through preseason and we know he's a starting quarterback and the season starts. You think we're going to be still talking about this once games start? No, we're not going to be talking about this stuff when games start. We're going to be talking about games. It's what happens every year. Nobody remembers all this crap when the games are going. Now, we may get to the end of the season and it's a horrible season and you don't have anything else to talk about. So we talk about, blame it on Derek Carr. Maybe he would deserve it at that point. Probably. Apathy, I'm going to tell you this. If I have a meltdown and pick 9, that's much, you mean must-watch TV. I gotta tell you, I'm so confused about what the Saints are going to do. And I have opened my mind to so many reasonable possibilities that I don't think I'm going to have a melt. If they pick Shedeur Sanders, who I don't think is going to be an NFL quarterback, or Jackson Dart at number 9, or even worse, if they trade up to draft one of those guys, then I probably will have a meltdown. But I don't think I'm going to have a meltdown. I'll have my opinions on whatever it is. I just don't see me having a meltdown this year. Not like 2 years ago when they drafted Isaiah Foskey in the 2nd round and I went off. Yeah, that's different. GP, what insider is going to burn the Sorensen's car? Same people burning it's the same people burning the swords inside the Saints. Trust me, the Saints aren't letting all this stuff out because they don't want you to know. There is no organization besides the old Patriots. I don't even know about these New England Patriots. There is no organization in football more tight-lipped than the New Orleans Saints. I promise you. It's all a smokescreen. Both sides are full of crap. Okay? Both sides. Earl's pick says Sanders is the best quarterback coming out of this shit. I think Cam Ward's the best quarterback. Got the smarts. You can be as smart as you want. You can be as accurate as you want. You put Shedeur Sanders behind this offensive line, and he's going to get killed. And I'll be honest, I would rather Spencer Rattler because at least he can get out of there, get out of trouble. Gabe says that he thinks I have a meltdown. I probably would have a meltdown. I might have a meltdown if it's Dart. I don't know. I'm just going to let it happen. Whatever happens, happens. Who that daddy says he's having a draft party at the house with my show on the big screen all day. It'll be fun. Again, y'all better come and comment. We're going to welcome in. I mean, I got to talk to. I don't think Zach Ewing understands how many Dattitude regulars are probably going to watch the show and want to comment. Just saying. All right, we're going to move on. I'm going to come back to Saints because I want to spend, before I get to the last word, okay, so Gabe's going to come on. We're going to talk a little bit about this. We're going to have man versus machine. Man's been hot. And then before I have the last word, I'm going to come back to this because I want to go back to these odds moving. I want to go back to the odds changing. Okay? That's how we're going to end the show. So we're at 1:38. We're probably got 30 minutes left in the show. It's going to be I knew today was going to be a long one. Wednesday's probably going to be a long one. It is what it is. It's just that it's draft week. What are you going to do? Here we go. Whoops, wrong thing. Well, if you got a peek, you already got a heads up on what man versus machine because I clicked on the wrong slide. But if you weren't paying attention, you don't know. Gabe Henderson, we missed you on Friday. Welcome back. Hope you had a great Easter weekend. Thank you. Yeah, did. It was busy, but good. Man, this is the story that never ends. Hopefully it will soon. An outsider's thoughts. You live in Houston. You're a Texans fan. We've been working together doing this for a couple of years, but an outsider's thoughts on this whole fiasco. I'm going to stick with what I said before. What's up, Who Dat Daddy? I think, and I actually learned some new information because we were very speculative when we talked last time, and I heard Ari Mirov talk about it. He gave some clarification on the subject. He said that Derek Carr did not have to sign the restructure. The Saints did the restructure without his signature. We have talked about this, and I've approached this subject, and I might have been Friday. You might not have been here, but there is zero possibility they restructure that without getting his approval. They don't do that without getting his approval. It just doesn't happen. Well,
I mean, he's pretty respected, and he said it verbatim. He said Derek Carr's camp
for a second
did not know, and they're unhappy. I mean, it would explain a lot.
It would explain a lot, but I don't believe.
That's why I'm gonna.
Well, here's one thing it wouldn't explain. He's getting more money up front, so there's no reason really for him to be that upset. So he's still getting a check for $20 million or $25 million, or what, like a one lump sum. So I wouldn't think for 1 second. Here's the thing. None of this crap about Derek Carr being pissed makes any sense in the grand scheme of things anyway, because he's still getting a big, giant chunk of change that's allowing him to go buy a $500,000 Rolls Royce that he can review on his stupid podcast. That's awful, by the way.
Here's the thing, and this is true about Derek Carr. This is true about a lot of athletes. Derek Carr's a diva. I think we've learned that.
I agree.
It doesn't matter how much they're making. I think he hasn't come out and expressed it himself, but all of the reports kind of seem to agree. He is unhappy in New Orleans. And who wouldn't be? And that's not in the city of New Orleans. That is an indictment of how the fans have treated him.
Yeah.
Jay Tucker have not been kind to Derek Carr.
Jay Tucker Rafferty says it's a clause in the Saints put in their contracts to help you with the cap when they want. Again, he knew it was in there. However, whenever you put anything in, I promise you, they don't do that without saying, hey, let's talk about this. We're going to restructure your contract.
They did. And
correct.
Apparently he and his agent both said, no, we don't want that. We want out.
Don't believe that. I mean, I believe that they probably wanted out, but I don't believe that they didn't. They don't have anything against the restructuring. If the Saints say, we're not getting rid of you, we're either going to do it this way or we're going to restructure, and they're going to be like, okay, restructure, well, then we get $25 million up front or whatever it is.
Well, you and I both agree that the restructure essentially means that he's tied down to the Saints, because Mickey Loomis is not going to pay that dead cap money for someone that doesn't play for his team.
All right, but they're still going to have to. It's right, 100%. But
exactly,
if he doesn't play for,
I think he knows that as well as you and I.
Right, and
that's
so
why he's unhappy.
If they just cut him, regardless of when, whatever, they still got to pay this big chunk of change next year too. So it just doesn't. I don't
think they would cut him. I don't think they would. I think if he leaves, he gets traded. He's not going to get anywhere near what people are saying, and especially what Charles was saying earlier. He said get the Raiders 6th pick for Carr. That would never happen. And lastly, on this subject, because we're moving on, I don't want to spend any more time on this because it's a really ridiculous subject. I hear what all of y'all are saying, that this person said this and this person said that. How we've been talking about it for 2 weeks now. I don't care if it's my best friend whom I trust or someone I don't trust or whatever. These are all reports. I don't care what these reports say until someone comes out and tells me on the record, which probably isn't going to happen. It'll never happen. Exactly. So you're never going to know the real truth. Okay. There's probably portions of the truth in every single report that's out there. We just don't know is it 10% right? Is it 90% right? Because it ain't 100% right. None of this stuff is 100% right. It's just not. So we don't know whether it's 10% right, 50% right, 90% right, and we're never going to know. I mean, that's kind of the point of all this. So I take everything, and I know you do too. We take everything we see on social media and read in any story, and I mean any story, with a grain of salt. Because just because Joe Blow said something doesn't mean it's 100% true. So. No, and you did ask my thoughts, and I don't want to pat my 100%. I wanted you to break my arm patting myself on, but I do believe that the latest reports that we've gotten, as untrustworthy as some may take them, I believe they've kind of validated and I think it trying to force a way out. I think that's what the reasoning. I don't think he's in any position to force his way out now. He's in no position to force his way out. I don't think he is. No. I agree with you. I don't think he is, but that's why I think he is saying what he's saying, or his agent is feeding these shoulder reports. Good. That could be, but that doesn't forcing a shoulder. Yeah, that doesn't help you get out. That doesn't do anything for you. I know, but I mean, I guess what it could set up though, Gabe, he can control. That is the only leverage that he has. What it could set up though is
him coming in here and saying, I can't play because my shoulder's hurt, which could be. I don't believe that's going to happen. And then the Saints doctors check him out, and the Saints doctors say, there's nothing wrong with your shoulder. And then we have this tete-a-tete, and they end up in court or whatever.
Not if he gets surgery first.
He's not getting surgery. He's not going to get surgery on a shoulder that doesn't need surgery. It ain't happening.
You can get a touch-up surgery.
I could get a touch-up surgery on my face. It doesn't not going to make me look better.
It's the Alabama surgery. Go look at the Patriot surgery. Go look at the surgery that all of their players get at the end of the season. It's just a cleanup.
A cleanup doesn't make you miss a season.
The surgery, I'm not saying he's going to get it, but the surgery prevents the Saints from fining him for sitting out. That is his drastic measure. I will not play. I will get a surgery. I'm not saying it's, but that is the leverage that he has to where he could keep his money and still not play.
I will stand by this. I will say it again. I will say this again. I will stand by it. If I'm wrong, I'm wrong. I'll come back and say, I was wrong. I'll get the freezer burnt crow boy out of the freezer here, and I will eat it in front of you. On September the 7th, the starting quarterback for the New Orleans Saints will be Derek Carr. And you can hate it all you want, and he'll get booed like no player has ever been booed in that Superdome, including some hated Atlanta Falcon, including Bobby Hebert when he went to the Falcons and came in here and started for the Falcons. He'll get booed worse than that. But on September the 7th, 2025, against whoever the Saints open up against, whether it's here or September the 14th or whatever the first game is in the Dome, the starting quarterback will be Derek Carr. Hate it up. And the only reason why you could possibly say there's no way that's happened is if you absolutely hate Derek Carr, which is a lot of you. I get it. Otherwise, you can't see.
I mean,
and I
don't know.
I don't pat myself on the back a lot. I'm just saying, but I probably will pat myself on the back a lot for that one. All right.
I had to
Let's start on that before we move on.
I had to guess now. My opinion holds no weight. This is just a total shot in the dark. If I were the New Orleans Saints, here's what I would do. Because people have said they've done extensive work on Jackson Dart. I don't think Jackson Dart is going to be a good quarterback.
Neither do I.
I'm not an NFL talent evaluator.
We sure both were right about Will Levis and Anthony Richardson.
That wasn't very hard. The thing is, Jackson Dart showed flashes in college. Will Levis never did. Will Levis was never good. But
you got a point.
If this is my prediction for what it's worth and what it's worth being nothing. I think the Saints trade up in the second round and take Jackson Dart. I think they move up in the second round.
I think that's a possibility.
By using some mid-level picks. And I think they recoup some of those mid-level picks by, once they take Jackson Dart, dumping Derek Carr.
I think that's possible. I don't think dumping Derek Carr.
A fourth or a fifth at absolute most from a team.
I think he's untradeable. I think Derek Carr's untradeable.
It's a very small list of suitors.
The Saints would rather, I could tell you right now, they would rather get nothing and dump him because they're going to have to pay a salary anyway. I just don't think it makes any. They're not going to trade him. I just don't see. I'm just saying.
I just think it would be, at that point, it would be smart if you give up some mid-round picks to trade up for Dart.
Yeah, I think that's all a pipe dream. I just don't think you're going to get
it. It might be.
You're going to get nothing. I think you'll get nothing for Derek Carr because just like. I think the Saints know. I mean, the other teams know that they have leverage as well. Last question, but again, we're moving on. And Sean Hurst asked, "How much would I bet on Carr starting?" I'm going to answer this the same way I answer every question when it comes to how much would I bet on anything. What odds are you giving me? That's the answer. You give me a minus 110.
You would have to have a minus next to that number.
You would. Well, not according to these people.
But these people
everybody
are makers, Jim.
I mean, the Dattitude family here is like none of them. There are like 3 people who think it's even possible Carr starting. None of them think.
No, but none of the Dattitude family hangs other than UBN, and I think he'd agree with us on the minus.
I'm going to say this about the Dattitude family.
Extensively as we did.
I'm going to take up from my Dattitude family here because I'll say, out of the Dattitude family and regular average Joe Saints fan, the Dattitude family, and I'm not just saying that because of the Dattitude family, they're way more reasonable than average Joe who dat, because if you go on social
100%.
media, they got some outlandish crap that I read. I can't even read it anymore. I can't even go on X anymore. Mally Mouse says Rattler will start. Hey, it's a possibility.
I could see that as well.
Aaron
I think
says he thinks
if
Cars.
you were to give me, if you were to tell me and give me odds that the
I'd
starting quarterback in week 1 for next year was already on the Saints roster, I would probably take that.
Look, I'll say this. I would, and again, everyone who watches the show on any semi-regular basis knows how I feel about Spencer Rattler. I'm going to say it for about the 8th time. If you give me the choice between Spencer Rattler starting all season or the Saints picking a quarterback at 9, whoever it is, I'm taking Rattler, because you cannot, this team is not in a position to use the 9th pick of the draft on a quarterback. They just can't do it.
I agree with that.
And it really would be silly. All right, let's move on.
I think we've said all along that do it. And one last comment.
Go ahead.
David, the Browns are not trading for Derek.
No
chance. If the Browns trade for Derek Carr, and Jim hasn't agreed to this, I will give you my spot on the show for a day if the Browns trade for Derek Carr.
Well,
it's not going to happen. They simply have way too much money already invested in quarterbacks.
All right, we got about 10 minutes left on Saints. I will use it after we're done with Man versus the Machine. Before last word, the last word is not on the Saints today. The last word is on just having a little fun with the New York Yankees. All right. Man versus, again, we're going to come back to the Saints as soon as we're done with Man versus the Machine. Man versus the Machine today. Dun, dun, dun. If you haven't noticed, Man and the Machine are hot. They have both won 2 in a row. The Machine is now 4-2. Man went from 0-4 to 2-4. See how quick I added that up? Now, Man today is going way out on a limb. Man is going, he's picking a plus. It takes cojones. You got to have attitude and ego. Okay. If you're going to go with a plus 475 is your bet of the day, but I ain't saying you can't do it. Man's pick today is Nick Castellanos of the Philadelphia Phillies to hit a home run. $10 get you $47.50. Gabe Henderson, what made you pick this?
Well, you alluded to it at the beginning of the show. Yesterday, the Pope passed away. We learned about it this morning.
That is correct.
And anytime this is just a thing that's been happening for the last.
Wait, hold on. We're trying to take advantage of the Pope dying. You're a heathen. You're going to hell, Gabe Henderson. But I'm not saying I wouldn't bet on it if you gave me a good reason. Go ahead.
So the thing is ever since, do you remember the now classic broadcasting moment where Nick Castellanos hit a home run in the middle of a broadcaster's apology?
Not really.
That moment. And there's a deep drive
sort
to
of
left
rings a
field.
bell.
I consider myself a man of faith, and there's a deep drive to left field by Castellanos. Do you remember that? So ever since that happened, the running joke has been Nick Castellanos hits a home run anytime something bad happens.
Grok mentioned it, by the way, and Grok's, can't call him. It's got to be, is Grok a they, them? It mentioned it. It's not in what I'm going to read to you, but
okay.
But Grok actually mentioned that.
So it's a old played out joke. It's been going on for years. Most of the time, Castellanos does not hit a home run because something bad happens in this earth every day. And Castellanos does not go.
I mean, there are 162 games in a season, and he averages about 23 to 26 homers a season. So logic tells you that's about a 7-1 chance he's going to hit a home run, which isn't the value that you're going to get at plus 475. But I get it.
So if you want, I'm going to give you another kind of entertaining joke reason why to make this pick. So anyone familiar with betting and the betting culture knows the Twitter account Book It with Trent. I'm convinced, everyone says he's the worst gambler on earth. I'm convinced he's actually a genius, because to go off on a little bit of a tangent, in high school I took a class called Algebra 3. I love algebra.
Oh.
And my teacher told me that you can get a 100 on a test 2 ways. You can get a 100 or you could get a 0. And he gave people who got a 0 100 because he said you are either playing a guessing game that is almost a no-win situation for you because you are guessing the answer to every question, and the chance of you getting 1 right and getting a 4 is much greater than you getting a 0. So essentially, by getting everyone wrong, you are showing that you know the answer and you're just picking against it on purpose. So anyways, Book It with Trent makes these picks and he tweets them out every day. And just about every pick he makes is wrong. And people have made
that's golden. I mean, you could bet against it and make some serious
and
money.
That's what people do. And he every so often he'll tweet out, I have nuked this play. This is a huge play. I'm certain this person, his big thing is he bets on people not to go yard.
What is this again?
It's a Twitter account. It's a guy named Trent Ataya. His name is his handle is Book It with Trent.
Book It with Trent.
So,
everybody go check out Book It with Trent.
He tweeted this morning, I have never been more certain that Nick Castellanos ain't going yard. Now, he'll tweet
so
that
you're
out.
betting against the Pope and Book It with Trent.
So I am of the mindset that he actually bets the other way, and he just tweets this out as a joke. Because there's no way someone who loses this often would be able to make money.
Well, I mean, if you lost something 13 in a row, as long as it wasn't your own money, you would want to keep the streak. I mean, I'm a sicko. I would want to keep the streak on. I don't want to win unless it's my own. You could bet against yourself, but it doesn't mean you want a streak to end. I'm a streak kind of guy, right?
So anyway, Book It with Trent has said that there's no way Nick Castellanos goes yard today.
Fair enough.
Which means inevitably he is going to hit a home run. But if you want something a little more concrete,
okay,
Nick Castellanos is playing Tyler McGill today, and he has a 333 average against Tyler McGill, and I believe 9 career AVs. One of those being an extra base hit. I think a combination of all of that. I believe he's going to go yard today. And I thought this would be a more fun pick than taking the Knicks.
It is a more fun pick. And we like to have fun because I like to ask you.
Absolutely.
I like to ask you for your guess. Here's where we say, what do you think the machine's going to say? And so I'll ask you.
I think the machine is going to say no because of his history against Tyler McGill and the fact that he only has 1 extra base hit against him.
All right. Well, the machine was very kind of vague, but I'm going to interpret this as a no. So y'all are going against each other. I'm going to interpret this. I'm going to read it to you. If anyone thinks that I'm wrong, you can tell me I'm wrong. And the answer is, let's go to the machine. Got to use the machine voice. If you're a casual bettor and enjoying the narrative around Castellanos, and we just talked about what that narrative was, especially the meme appeal, a small bet of $5 to $10 at plus 600 at Sports 75, or better could be fun given his power and the Mets' weak pitching. Tyler McGill isn't that weak of a pitcher, but anyway, potential payout is enticing, and his recent form suggests he's not a bad pick. However, if you're risk averse or want a better value, skip this prop. So I'm going to take that as a no. Charles says,
yeah, it's going to be a no. Like minus 100 not to go yard. Congratulations, machine. You once again have taken the heavily juiced odds.
Charles says Charles Barkley is the worst gambler. He is pretty bad. UBN says, y'all are weird. Anybody who loves algebra is a weirdo. Something's wrong with you. How the hell could you love that crap?
Science related.
I have traumatic. I'm not joking.
Trig.
I have traumatic memories. Okay, of going to my eventual college roommate's house because he understood this crap, and him like after school and. Like I just wing everything else, and I'd find a way to do it. You can't wing algebra. I still don't get. I get it more. Charles Mangus loved geometry. Geometry was literally the worst subject I think I ever took in school. Okay, geometry.
I will tell you why I hate geometry. I had a geometry teacher in high school that it didn't matter if you got the right answer. If you did it differently than the way that she showed you, she counted it wrong.
Yeah. Let me tell you, there were 2 subjects I would, if I had to go back and say, you got to do, and somebody said, you've got to do high school all over again, but I'll give you 2. You can take 2 subjects off your list that you don't have to go back to class. Geometry is one and biology is the other one.
Biology is mine as well. Anything science related. I could do chemistry.
Chemistry is all right.
Chemistry and physics were a lot of math. Couldn't do biology.
Yes. And, chemistry had all these numbers in the periodic table, and this numbers doesn't. I'm with you. I actually like numbers. I just don't like algebra.
I'll say this. Taking 3 years of algebra and eventually
Trig was fine.
And eventually majoring in journalism got me out of doing any sort of calculus. And that's a win for me.
Win-win. Well, hopefully this will be a win for the man and a loss for the machine. But we'll see how it goes, and we'll talk to you on Wednesday.
Hopefully there's no calculus involved.
I hope not. Please, for the love of Christ. See you Wednesday.
Sounds good.
All right. Back to the Saints here for a few minutes. Look, UBN, this home run bet has been pounded. It's only plus 360 now. It was plus 600 earlier. In fact, I think some places you get it plus. Oh, there you go. Gabe says it was plus 775 to start the day. Yikes. Who that daddy says 2 + 2 is 6 for. Dude, I'm with you. There's a reason why there's a calculator prominent on my computer here and on my phone. Just saying. I do like me some numbers, but I don't know. All right. Closing it out. If you got one last comment here on Saints, it's funny because we didn't talk hardly at all about quarterback to start off, and then with Mike D, and then it just kind of devolved as it usually does because people hate Carr so much. I got to be honest too. If everybody actually liked Carr, I'd probably at least present the other side. So y'all just make it easy because if there are 60 regulars in the chat today, and that's about what it is, somewhere in that neighborhood, there are 4 people who like Carr. Or 4, I don't even say 4 people who like Carr. There are 4 people who can accept Carr. There are 56 of y'all who just hate that MF. I haven't even showed all the one thing one thing that's a major difference on the show between today and even, I don't know, 6 to 8 months ago, and how the show has grown so much. And I love y'all to death. Even when we don't agree, I love y'all to death. But I used to show just about every comment, unless it was just ridiculous, because I kind of had to, because we didn't have enough comments. We were growing. And that's now I pick and choose a lot of the time. Mally Mouse says, I'm keeping hope alive on Carl wanting to be here. I don't care whether he wants to be here or not. I really don't. I don't care whether he wants to be here or not. And he probably doesn't want to be here, but there's lots of people who play for teams they don't necessarily want to play for. Doesn't mean they lose on purpose, and it doesn't mean they don't come show up and then do what they got to do. Because Carr's the kind of person, he's not going to want to, it's not going to help. Again, all the things that Gabe has said in the past and other reasons why I get the reasons, I don't agree with him. If Carr decides, okay, we don't have any other options, we're going to go play, then he's going to come in here and he's going to work and he's going to play. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like him. You don't have to like the situation. He doesn't have to like being here. It could be a marriage made in hell. As someone who's been married twice, I understand a marriage made in hell and a marriage made in heaven. When you're in the marriage made in hell, you go through it every day, and you might not like where you are, but you try to make it work. And at some point you agree, you understand it ain't working, and you move on. It's, how Mike Detillier earlier was using life lessons for different things. This is the same thing as a life lesson. You might not like your partner. You might go through a marriage or go through a friendship or whatever, or go through a work relationship. You might have a similar thing at work. You might not like the situation you're in, but I don't know about you. You may not have done the same thing. But even when I was in that first marriage that I knew wasn't going to work, I was pretty sure it wasn't going to work, I tried to make it work. I promise you I did. Now, whether she did or not, I don't know the answer to that. I can't. Only she would be able to answer that. At some point, I just said, you know what? I give up. It ain't going to work. But I tried. Eric Dodd says, draft a player who can contribute this year at 9 and 40 and roll with Rattler. See what you have in him. If he doesn't work out, next year's quarterback class is better, even if Arch stays in school. I understand that philosophy. I don't agree with it. Again, Just because I say I would rather them go with Rattler doesn't mean I would rather them go with Rattler than pick a quarterback at 9. Doesn't mean that I want them to not pick a quarterback at 9 and roll with Rattler, because I don't want them to roll with Rattler, because that means, do y'all remember how it was? I mean, I'm sure you do. It wasn't that long ago, but we're not really talking about it anymore. Do you remember how it was to be a fan? Forget about Derek Carr for a minute, because when he got hurt, I mean, people were rooting for Spencer Rattler, and they weren't even really talking about Carr all that much. Do you remember what it was like to be a fan? Just say December. It's horrible. Yes, a lot of people had hope for Darren Rizzi and hope for this and hope for that. And yeah, they came out and they beat the Falcons and everybody was happy, and they ended the 7-game losing streak. And then Carr got hurt in the Giants game, and they barely won on a field goal that missed and blah, blah, blah. But the rest of the season after that was horrible. And really before that, it was horrible. Do y'all want to go through that again? I get Daryl Romero that we have a new coach, so we don't know what the hell is going to happen in exciting times. That's true. A new coach is an exciting time. But even if you have a new coach, you're not going to set up. I don't know how many. Think about this is the common sense show, right? You are not going to set up a rookie head coach to fail. You're just not going to do it. Doesn't make sense to roll with Rattler like it's an easy decision. Just roll with Rattler. Don't care about what, Rattler equals losses, okay? Rattler equals probably 5-12 again at best. No matter whether you got a new coach or not. Oh, you didn't see enough. You don't go from going 0-6, 0-7 or whatever it was to winning 7 or 8 games the next year. You just don't, okay? Spencer Rattler's not us. You may not have seen enough. There are not nearly as many Rattler backers as there were even 6 months ago. So that's like the last resort. You do that as the last resort. But I promise you, common sense dictates that this franchise is not going into this draft, going into the rest of this offseason thinking, you know what? We got the rat. We'll just go with them. They're not doing that. So they're either planning on drafting a quarterback in this first or second round. Again, I hope that's not what they're doing. But I'm in a second round. That's a whole different story. We'll talk about that later. We've talked about it today. We'll talk about it again later. But they're not going in this draft, I don't think, wanting to draft a quarterback in the first round. So logic dictates that they're not going to waste all this money that they're already losing on Derek Carr to not go with Derek Carr. That's why I'm telling you that's where I think they're going. Now, if you gave me the option of saying you could get rid of Carr tomorrow and wipe the slate clean, and he keeps the money, but you don't lose the cap space, then I'd say, okay, then do what you got to do. That'd be different. But you can't do that. You can't do that. Again, last chance to get your comments in. I got a few more comments to show before I get to the last word. We told you earlier we'll let you know more about how Evangeline Securities can help you figure out what your family run or privately held business might be worth and whether it's time to sell. How do they do it, you ask? Thank you for asking. After their complimentary valuation of your company, if you decide to proceed, native New Orleanians Nick Braden, Ron Melton, the folks at Evangeline will begin an extensive auction process among established private equity funds from around the world. And they'll maximize the return for the founder and his or her family. Evangeline Securities is the top producer on their platform. There are very few companies like them in this area, and none with their dedication and success. They are fully licensed and ready to serve you. So get in touch with Nick and Ron about what's really important. I don't have to tell you what's not important. You know what's really important. The rest of your life. You can find them at www.evangelinesecurities.com. All right, final comments today before we get to the last word. How could you possibly, how in the world, unless you live next door to Kellen Moore and been having supper with him, or you got him on your text messaging, how in the world could you possibly know, Charles Mangus, that Kellen Moore is not impressed with Derek Carr? How could you possibly know that? We don't just say shit on this show without having. You can have an opinion on something, but you can't have an opinion on something that would have to be fact. You can't just say Kellen Moore. That's like saying you don't know Kellen Moore. You've never met her in your life, and you say Kellen Moore doesn't like Brussels sprouts. How do you know? He just doesn't look like a guy who would like Brussels sprouts. Whew. Yikes. Earl's picks. Rat was awful. 7 losses, 4 touchdowns, 5 interceptions. Now, see, that's facts. I mean, you could argue, I guess, the awful part. But maybe Rattler does like Brussels sprouts, and maybe that, I don't know. Whole different story. Eric Dodd, we're in rebuild no matter what anyone thinks. Rattler is 5-12, Carr is 7-10. I couldn't disagree with more. Couldn't disagree even a little bit more. One of they're at worst, this team, without massive offensive line injuries again, this team right now, before they even make a draft pick, is a 8-9 / 9-8 / 10-7 kind of team with Derek Carr as their quarterback. I mean, they were 9-8 2 years ago. Uncle Deuce, bro, what help did Rattler have? Y'all serious? They're serious. Sean Hurst, Aikman and Manning didn't light it up in their beginning. Which Manning was that? You mean Peyton? Yeah, he sucked. Aikman, his first NFL game, I was there. I was in the Superdome. We lost 28-0. Tyree Tobias, do I think the New Orleans Saints win the division this year? You can't ask me that on April 21st. You got to ask me that on August 21st or even August 1st. But I would tell you this. It's not out of the question. Who dat daddy? We're going to have to deal with the rat because Carr doesn't have the guts to face the fans in the dome. Again, where in the world would you possibly have that information from? Where did you get that from? He doesn't have the guts. I got 40 million reasons why you're wrong. Mark Gapsky hates Brussels sprouts. You and me both, brother. There ain't a lot I don't like in this world that I eat. Brussels sprouts is one of them, and I think that's why I've been using it. Brussels sprouts. If you like Brussels sprouts, we got to have a chat. I finally got my wife to stop cooking them. Like, she loves them, okay? And my wife finally, about 6-7 years ago, every time she cooked them, I would just complain about the smell in the house that wouldn't go away for days. UBN says he heard his Carr puts tomatoes in his gumbo. I see you just trying to stir it. Pots. Chad says same as Carr is much more effective. Now we just let's don't fight with each. I don't like when we fight with each. Y'all can fight with me, argue with me. Y'all don't argue with one another on here. If somebody says something you don't agree with, either say something back respectfully. Let's don't have a pissing contest in the comment stream. No. Last comment. Last comment's going to be Uncle Deuce. I wasn't in here the whole time, but who do I think should go quarterback? I made it pretty clear, I think. I'm not taking up for him. I'm not backing anything he's done. I don't want the Saints to draft a quarterback at 9. I don't want to go through a season of the rat going 5-12. I think the only option, unless he's playing chicken, then I hope he does lose, it's Derek Carr. I hope they get rid of him at the first chance they get to get rid of him because I'm sick of it. There you go. This is the last comment. Family, this is not a fight, it's a debate. Correct. UBN, too old for a pissing contest. Again, might not be what I want. What I want is what makes the most sense and what gives the Saints the best chance to win game. You can hate Derek Carr all you want, but if you think there's a better chance for the Saints to win games for somebody other than Derek Carr, you cray. You can't see through your seething hate. You just can't. It's a fact. If you don't think Derek Carr is the best option for this team to win next year, now, you might not care about winning. That's a whole different story. I get it. I don't agree with you. Anyway, I don't think anybody's messing with you, Uncle Deuce. I'm certainly not. All right. That's it for comments today. Again, Wednesday show. A lot more time for comments. We're going to be taking comments all week, boys and girls. We'll be here all week. It's not a comedy show, but we're going to be here all week. Time to move on to the last word. And the last word, we turn to the world of baseball. But it's really a life lesson. That's right. Even if you're the almighty New York Yankees, doing someone a favor could trigger the old adage of no good deed goes unpunished. You see, Hurricane Milton early last fall left the Tampa Bay Rays without a home as the roof at Tropicana Field was left in tatters. Think the Superdome back in 2005. In stepped the nice, the loving, the wonderful, the great New York Yankees, who play their spring training games at Steinbrenner Field in Tampa. While it seats just a little over 11,000, it's a pretty nice place to play, and certainly good enough for the attendance-challenged Tampa Bay Rays to use as their home for a year. It just so happened the Yankees came to town for an Easter weekend series against the Rays at, yes, Steinbrenner Field. For a bit, it looked as if it would be one for the Yankees' long overwritten history books. Max Fried, the free agent pitcher who left the Braves to wear the donut pinstripes in the Bronx, looked like he was on his way to pitching the 14th no-hitter in team history. That's all they have is 13 no-hitters? Really? Yeah, it's true. But when Fried went out there to start the eighth, thinking he had given up no hits and he was on his way to history, the 0 in the H column changed to a 1. As scorer Bill Matthews changed an error originally given to first baseman Paul Goldschmidt when a ball hit by rookie Chandler Simpson bounced off his glove. They changed it from an error to a hit. Yankees fans were aghast, even though the call was the right one. And to compound matters, Alms had just tossed Aaron F. Boone for arguing an Aaron Judge homer that was ruled foul, which means he'll only hit 92 homers this year instead of 93. Yankees still won 4-0, but they cried more than they cheered because, well, they're the Yankees. And it's proof that even Mother Nature and the gods of karma can throw a little shade on the Bronx Bombers. Just remember, y'all, even for the New York Yankees, no good deed goes unpunished. Maybe crying foul and crying chicken can go punished. I don't know. Anyway, we have gone way over the time. If y'all still there, give us a like before we go off the air. That is the last word for today. It's going to wrap it up for this Monday. I want to thank my guest, Mike Detillier, Gabe Henderson, and of course, you, Dattitude family. We hope you can join us next on Wednesday when we will welcome in Eric Asher. Thursday, mock draft, Gabe Henderson, Zach Ewing, myself. That's Thursday morning. So Wednesday at 11, Thursday at 11, all here on Dattitude. And then, of course, Thursday night, live draft show. You will want to be here. Have us on your screen while you got whatever else going on. It's going to be fun. A reminder to subscribe to our Dattitude YouTube page. Click the little bell so you can always receive notifications when we go on the air live. You can also find us wherever you get your podcasts, including Apple, Spotify, and many more. And you can find a replay of the show always on NOLA.com/sports. You can find me on bet.NOLA.com. Bet.NOLA.com. You can find the Saints Insiders on NOLA.com/sports/Saints and also their own YouTube page. You know what that means? It means it's the end for today. We will see you all on Wednesday. Take it easy, my friends.
If you're looking for the latest scoop and in-depth interviews on the Saints, the NFL, the Pelicans, LSU, along with the best bets of the week, then lucky you. Along with high-powered, in-the-know guests who cover our teams, Jim Derry brings plenty of Dattitude. And he'll always tell you the way it is, or at least the way he thinks it is.